Hello, welcome to Molten Music Technology, our secret R&D lab here in sunny Norfolk. Today we're looking at the Focusrite Rednet. The beautiful box. About a year ago, Focusrite came to me looking for a computer to run Rednet on, and we built them a machine, and it beat everything else that they had, including the Mac, and was able to run the full 128 channels of audio simultaneously in and out at 3 milliseconds, which sounds all very impressive. But it's taken until now for us to actually be able to get a Rednet unit out of them so that we could do our own testing. I mean, I don't know about you, but the recent Sound on Sound review just sort of left me pulling on my beard, thinking, what on earth does that mean? It didn't seem to make any kind of sense. There was nothing about how you use it, nothing about what's really good about it, or its performance, or how you rig one up. It seemed, I don't know, somehow impenetrable. And similarly, the videos on the Focusrite website, just, I don't know, I don't seem to be getting it, perhaps. So what I'd like to do today is to set this up, install it, wire it up, and try to see how audio goes in and out, what the performance is like, and what it's actually really good for, or not. So that's the plan for today, to take it slowly, step by step, a sort of an idiot's guide, if you like, to Rednet, to see if we can get to the bottom of what it's all about. Okay. There are currently 6 Rednet units. They all look rather similar, but on the back you'll find a very different set of connections. Rednet 1, 8 analog in out on a 25-pin D-sub connector. Rednet 2, 16 analog in-outs, again on a D-sub connector. Rednet 3, 32 channels of ADAT light pipe and 8 channels of AES EBU on a D-sub and SPDIF in-out. Rednet 4, 8 mic inputs with preamps and 8 line inputs on a D-sub. There's no outputs at all on this box. Rednet 5 connects 2 Avid Pro Tools HD hardware, giving 32 channels in-out per unit. And Rednet 6 provides a MADI connection on optical and coaxial for up to 64 channels. Right, so let me introduce you to our test rig here. I've got Windows 8, oh yes. Then over here I have my Rednet unit, and I have a gigabit switch, which is the key ingredient, I think. And then over here, in order to be able to hear the Rednet box, because it's got all those D-sub outputs on the back, I've had to acquire a D-sub loom, which then goes into a load of jack cables, which then goes into a patch bay, which then finally goes to my speakers. So, as I say, it's a posh bit of gear, using posh connectors, not your run-of-the-mill phonos here, oh good gracious no. So I will plug that all together, and then the most vital ingredient, of course, is the Rednet Getting Started guide. So that's what we're going to be following to see whether I can get this thing plugged in and working. The other thing of note is on the back here, ding, 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 we have the Rednet Dante card plugged in and working, which is the other key ingredient, but we'll talk more about that later on. So here we are, all laid out on the bench, trying to make it as simple as possible amongst the chaos of our test lab here, and we'll see how we go. Okay, Rednet getting started. We already know we've got a computer, and we've got a thing, we've got a gigabit switch and cables, we've plugged the card in, and we've installed the Rednet software, which is here. There's 2 things, the Dante controller and the Rednet control. So those are installed. So the next bit is connecting your Rednet audio network. Right, I have a network cable. It's going to go in to the back of here, back of the computer. There. Next, connect the Dante card, if installed, it says. That's actually it's not essential, to another port on the switch. The Dante card. Oh, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. Dante. And then plug this into another socket on the back. Now connect your Rednet device. So that plugs in down there, plugs in up here. So computer, Dante card, Rednet. Turn on your computer, Rednet units and the Gigaswitch. power on. We power on here. And then once we're there, it says run the Rednet control panel on your computer. And congratulations, you have just installed Rednet. Excellent. Well, here's the Rednet control. Let's tap on that. See what happens. Oh, it appears to be there as far as we can tell. Over here the network's all flashing like bonkers, and here we've got some steady lights, which is great. So let's boot up Cubase and see if we can get some sound out. Okay, devices, device setup. Let's have a look. ASIO driver, Rednet PCI. That should be the fella. It says it's operating currently at 3.6 in and out latency. Everything else seems nominal. Well, let's hit play, see what happens. Okay, we have playback, but we have no sound. Let's have a look over here. Okay, we seem to have an indication of playback, but I've got nothing coming out of here. Got it, I've got playback. So the problem was for you know, interested parties out here is that my lovely D-Loom is either wired backwards or labelled backwards, because it's coming out, see 1 and 2 there? Yeah, no, it's not coming out of 1 and 2 on that, it's coming out of 7 and 8. Well, of course it is, because that makes sense, because this is coming out of 1 and 2 here. So anyway, so a stupid Loom rewiring labelling issue had me thwarted there for a minute. Glorious, so that was actually really easy. So probably the trouble I've had has been purely one of wiring as opposed to anything else. Okay, there's a 16 track project just set up to show all the routings, etc. So that's being pumped through all 16 outputs of the Rednet, and over here you can see that happening. In case I didn't mention it, it's all just set up in the VST connections where you would set up any output. Each unit supports 128 different outputs. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that means because I have 16 physical outputs on the Rednet, but I guess what it's saying is that in the Rednet system, which is essentially being using the Dante card, it's using, because it says Rednet PCI, that is 128 channels worth of card. So whatever Rednets you have attached to it can route through any of those channels. So currently the Rednet 2 is set up to the first 16. So what Cubase is talking to is the Dante card, and it's the Dante card which is routing that audio to the physical interface over there. So it doesn't matter what Rednet box I have, it's the card itself which you're routing to whatever it is you've got it connected to, and you do that in the software, which is probably a bit complicated, but it seems simple enough at the moment. So just have a look at the performance testing. First of all, we set the Rednet PCIe to the lowest buffer size, 32 samples, and that gives us at 96K quite a stunning 0.667 millisecond in-out latency, which is amazing. I've not seen that before, so that's interesting. This is using my Halion performance test, loaded up dozens and dozens of Halion instruments and putting MIDI through it. Okay, 21 instruments is too far. Let's bring it back to 20, that just sounds lovely. A little bit of door bench testing at 32 samples. We've got 2 rows of 40, 44, 43, 83 rather. Performance with the Dante card is very similar to the RME Babyface at buffer sizes of 128 and 256 samples, but the Dante is 1 millisecond quicker, and the Babyface can't reach down to the latencies of 0.667 and 1 milliseconds at 32 and 64 samples. And now we're going to try it without the Dante card and see if we can run it on the internal Ethernet to see if that makes a difference to performance.
Something I failed to mention is that there's actually two ways to access a Dante network. The first way is with the PCIe card, and the second way is to use your own Ethernet connection, just a standard Ethernet port. And that uses something called the Dante Virtual Sound Card, or DVS, and offers about half the performance of the PCI card, so about 64 channels as opposed to 128.
Okay, this says it's connected and locked. It's always a good sign. Got flashing lights going crazy on our what's it. So I've downloaded the Dante Virtual Sound Card, the DVS, which is what that is, so we're going to install that, and that's what should allow us to use our Ethernet with the Rednet. I've activated my license, which gives me a 15-day trial version, which is all I need for testing this. One annoyance is that it needs to go and check with the Ordinate server in order to confirm that, which means I had to quickly connect it all back onto the internet again in order to achieve that, which is, if I'm just trying to do a closed network, it's a little bit annoying, but I guess you only have to do it the once. These are the settings for the Dante Virtual Sound Card, the DVS. You've got ASIO, you've got sample rate, and you've got the connection there, which is simple enough. Okay, all the lights have come on. That's good. Let's go back to our Rednet controller over here. Still can't find a DVS host. At the moment I'm not getting any luck with the DVS. Cubase can see it, it all seems to be there, it just can't seem to activate, it's just not functioning. Okay, got to the bottom of the DVS issue. The first problem was that what I hadn't noticed was this enormous power button here. The installer needed to be run as administrator. So once I'd uninstalled it and run the installer again as administrator, it then installed, no problem. So that's the first bit, is that power button there. Second bit, well, the first bit should be installing it properly in the first place. So now if we look at the Rednet controller, we can ignore that and go to the Dante controller, which is much more comprehensive. So you can open up the matrix here essentially and route whatever you want to whatever you want. So for instance, I'm going to want outputs from Dante 1 and 2 going to 1 and 2 on the Rednet, like so. So it's very, very easy. You can do things in blocks or you can do them individually. So now if I bring up Cubase, we should have, I'll play back again. Look at that. One other thing to point out is the metering that's in the software. So it reflects what's on the unit itself. Where is it? There it is. So that wasn't running when I was running the card, but that's because I discovered that it was been trapped by the firewall. So you need to add an exception to the firewall to allow the metering to happen, or turn the firewall off. Latency settings with the DVS are very different to the card. Latency is already much higher in Cubase, and the latency ASIO buffer size panel in the Rednet control no longer does anything. So you can change it in there, but that doesn't reflect anything in here. So the place where it looks like I'll have to change it is with the DVS control panel here, but you can't select any of the settings. Even if you turn it off, you still can't select any of the settings. This is while an ASIO application is attached. So if we close Cubase down, okay, now with the sound card off, I can now go to ASIO and select a buffer size, 32 for instance, but I've also got an ASIO latency. So what do they mean? I don't know, but if we set it all to the minimum, and I've also got another one here which is Dante latency, set that to the minimum, you then also have to resubscribe. Of course, subscribing apparently is the routing on each device. So it's not a very friendly thing, is what I'm saying. So let's turn that back on, see if our routing comes back. Yeah, that's popped back up into there. This is popped back up here, like so, which is what we want. Then we can go back into Cubase and see what the actual figures are. So on the lowest of everything, at 44, I get much higher latency. Still okay. That's 10 milliseconds in out, but much higher than using the PCI card. I will choose some performance testing comparisons, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near it. The hassle in changing the the buffer size is really only important to someone like myself who's changing it a lot during testing. So once you've got it set up, then that's not a big deal. But it is a bit of a pain, to say the least. But for the ease of connecting another computer to your network, to use the Rednet without having a PCI card, it's an awesome thing. It just has some performance hits. So I'll do some performance testing on that and let you know how that goes.
Performance with the DVS is more like a USB interface. Our benchmark Complete Audio 6 offers slightly better performance and at slightly better latencies. But overall, it's not bad.
But of course, the main beautiful thing about Rednet is being able to record over a network. So here's my Red 2 sat here in my living room. I've got a preamp because I don't have the right sort of input, so I've got a preamp set up here with a microphone and a willing volunteer who I'm recording. Hello, what's your name?
Alfie.
Cool. So you start playing. As it's registering an input on the Rednet. So I'm recording here in our living room. Meanwhile, I will head back to the studio lab to do the recording. So keep playing, mate. Keep playing for all you're worth, like your hair's on fire. So from the Rednet, we've got a cable going out the back, down here. Oh, here. That's what we're doing. Here, this one here. Which end? Takes us outside. Oh, that's along the cable. Down the bottom. Bring them back. Okay. And to the city. Back at this end. Into our switch. Over here. All over here. Down. Into the back of the computer there and here. As you can see, we're getting a nice big fat input. A little bit too much input maybe. Now of course we can't hear it. That's one of the slight flaws, is that in order to hear it we're going to need to have another Rednet box here. So if you're going to do this kind of recording over a network, you will need a box in the control room or in your studio and a box out in the live room. So because I only have the one box, of course I can't actually monitor what's being recorded, and to play it back I'd need to go and rescue the box, bring it back in here and plug it in. So that's worth bearing in mind. But that is live recording over Rednet. So Rednet then. One obviously awesome and powerful piece of technology. There's no doubt that this Dante stuff opens up a whole world of sort of routing and audio possibilities. I mean, why would you wire up tons of looms from one room to another when all you've got to do is drop a box on the network and you've got your audio going wherever you want it to go? And with the Dante system, you don't even need to have Rednet boxes. You can have anything that has Dante technology built in. So there's not a whole lot of boxes available out there, but there more are coming. I mean, at the moment it's still really expensive. I mean, this is a 1,700 quid box, and you're going to need two if you're using a control room and a live room. So that's a lot of investment, and what they really need is just a little sort of stereo in out monitoring box that you can drop into the network, so you can dip into the audio at any place. Focusrite say that essentially the technology is just really expensive, and they're looking at finding a way of using cheaper chips to bring out something with a more moderate price tag, which I think is probably going to be really useful down the line. On the performance side, it's truly formidable. I've never tested anything like it. The latency, the performance figures are just extraordinary when using the Dante card. The DVS is different. It's not the same thing, and it's all a bit sort of Heath Robinson at the moment. It's not as smooth as I'd like it to be, but it does allow you to plug in a computer that doesn't have the very expensive Dante card in the back, so like a laptop or something like that. So it's a very useful extra piece of technology that allows you to access the Dante system. So yeah, that's it. I hope that's put it into more layman terms and makes a bit more sense, and you can see whether this is the sort of thing that's going to be useful to you. I think if they produced like a single little box with a couple of ins and outs with the same sort of technology and a cheaper Dante card, then it could be a real winner for everybody. But at the moment, it's very pro, very high end, fantastic solution if you're trying to route audio around different places, different live rooms, control rooms, that kind of thing. Fantastic for that. But for the home user, probably a little bit over the top. But the technology is there, and it could filter down, and if it does, I think it would be a game changer. Wouldn't be fiddling around with USB and Firewire anymore. That would be awesome. So, Focusrite Rednet, yes. If you want a machine to run this on, then Molten Music Technology, any of our machines will do the job. Come and speak to us because, well, we've had a go and we think we know what we're talking about. So, yeah, come and try us out. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. So cheers, catch you next time.